Hey everybody, and welcome to our newest episode of our chess opening survey. And I'm excited about the episode today because we've done two videos on the Evans Gambit so far, and they've been a general introduction about the ideas. And out of request from one of my subscribers, they wanted me to get into some more detail. This is a tournament player rated about 16 or 1700, and so they're going to really need to know the ins and outs. And I do have some very in-depth analysis that I've done on this in the past, and I refreshed it for today. And so I'm very confident in this. And basically what I'm going to show you is we're going to go back to that game that Bobby Fischer played. And he had the basic ideas correct, but there's been some developments since then. So c3 is our main move. Bishop a5 is probably the most popular variation. d4, e takes d4, and here Bobby Fischer played castles kingside, which is a very popular move and probably the most popular move. But in the more recent years, some of the top grandmasters have figured out that instead of e takes d4 here, knight g2, instead of d takes c3, which is what Bobby Fischer's opponent played, knight to e7 is actually a better move. And in my opinion, if black plays this perfectly, black will get some sort of an advantage here. Now, I still think if you played this from the white pieces in a tournament game against pretty much anybody, except for somebody in like the top 50 in the world, you would still have good chances to win this game. But what I want to do is give you a variation where even if black plays perfectly, you will still be pushing for an advantage. So let me show you a couple games just to give you an illustration why knight g to e7 is a good move here. If c takes d4, d5. So this is probably the main reason. If black can get d5 in and clog up the center, even though they're giving their pawn back, they're going to be giving it back in favorable conditions. So e takes d5, knight takes d5, queen b3, and bishop e6. So black shores up this d5 point, gets his bishop developed, and as you can see, starting to clear the way for possibly being able to castle queenside if they want to. But in general, as you can see, black has a more free and clear game than they've had in the past variations that we've looked at. So a sample line here might be bishop a3, queen d7, and there have been some games following this line, knight d2, and all of these are just normal developing moves, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. Black wants to alleviate some of the pressure on their position, so they trade down some pieces, and then knight a5, which, as we know, attacks the queen and the bishop. Queen g3, knight takes c4, and knight takes c4. So I'm not going to go into any more depth on this, but as you can tell, obviously, black still has an extra pawn, and this position has much less pressure on it than some of the positions that we've seen in the past. And another example, knight ge7 here, instead of, like I said, instead of pawn takes d3, if white was to play knight g5 here, which Alexander Morozevich played, who's formerly ranked number 2 in the world, against Michael Adams, who's one of the top grandmasters in the world. Again, d5, e takes d5, knight e5 because it was being attacked, bishop b3, moving the bishop back. The knight was attacking it here. Castles kingside, c takes d4. So, like I said, white regains his pawn, but these pawns are very weak, doubled in the middle of the board, and the big problem is they're blocking these beautiful diagonals that we talked about in our previous games. knight g4, queen f3, knight f6, bishop a3. Again, trying to get this bishop on a good diagonal, pinning the knight on the rook. h6, knight e4, knight takes e4, queen takes e4, and rook e8. So the knight is no longer pinned on the rook here, so the knight can move, and now the rook is on this nice open file. And there's one more very cool idea that I liked in this position. Knight f5 getting onto a good square, queen f4, and this is the cool idea that I liked. Black plays bishop b4, redirecting his bishop to this beautiful square on d6 where it's getting in the way of these pawns. It has great scope along both lines. Knight a3, bishop d6. And black went on to win this game. Black has a clear advantage here, and I'm not going to go into any more of this, but this is why, going back to this position here, instead of castling kingside like Fischer did, which again, you will probably be fine if you play this, but I think the best way to play is queen b3. Excuse me. Queen b3 right here. So the reason being, now black is forced to protect this pawn right away, and to do that they either have to play queen e7 or queen f6. So first of all, the queen on e7 or f6 gets in the way of the development of this knight. It becomes a target for an e5 push later, or possibly a bishop g5 move. And you just really don't want your queen out in the middle of this type of position, and it gives white enough counterplay to be worthy of the pawn that they've given away. So a couple of example lines here: queen e7, castles, bishop b6, pawn takes d4, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, and bishop takes d4. And then we develop our knight, and black gets developed as well with knight f6. Now, if black was to play bishop takes c3, queen takes c3, this is fine. I would be totally fine playing this in a tournament. White's going to be able to play bishop e3 at some point, rook e1, and push these pawns. I would be totally happy to have this position. So instead, black plays knight f6, trying to get a piece developed, and we have an interesting move here, knight to b5. So white is giving away his rook here in the corner, but they know that they're going to be taking this pawn and forking the king and the rook here. So black goes ahead and takes that. White forks the king and the rook. And the big thing that comes out of this, black has to move his king. From this point on, black cannot castle his king, and it will be stuck in the center, which is plenty of compensation for this pawn that white has given up. So white gets the rook back that they gave away earlier, and black plays bishop d4 to get his bishop back into the game. And then bishop e3, threatening, the king is in a very precarious situation here, and these dark squares are very weak. So white doesn't mind trading away black's dark scored bishop. Bishop takes e3, queen takes e3, and now black doesn't want white to take this pawn here and then have all sorts of checks and knight c7 ideas and all that stuff, so they play b6. And then this, I don't know if this has ever been published in any book or online video or anything before. As far as I know, this is brand new analysis, and I found this move: knight takes a6, pawn takes a6, b6, and queen takes b6, check. So white has given up a piece here, but again, the black king cannot castle anymore, so this rook is stuck over here in the corner while all this attack is coming onto his king. King e8, and a beautiful move here, e5. So white is pushing this pawn down black's throat, attacking this knight, and he knows if this e-file ever opens up, he can slide his rook over. So actually, one of the top computer recommendations here is to go ahead and take the pawn and then queen b4, giving a protector to this rook e1 and also cutting the king off so it can't go to f8. Knight e4, rook e1, f5, and now f3. The knight is pinned on the king and the queen, and black is just trying to hold on here. F takes e4, F takes e4, and then now another very cool move from, again, I think this is brand new analysis, computer analysis here. Bishop f7 blocks the king from going back to e8 and gets out of the way of the queen to protect this, to attack this square here. So now there's two pieces attacking it. d6, rook takes e4. White has regained all his material, and black is struggling to survive here. So that was a really cool illustration. Again, a brand new computer analysis of this queen e7 line. So the other move I told you about in this position is black can play queen f6. And again, I think white is pressing for an advantage here. Castles, d takes c3, e5. Obviously, black doesn't want to take this and open up the e file. So queen g6, knight takes c3, knight ge7, bishop a3. So now, unlike the knight ge7 line we showed before where these pawns were in the way, white does have beautiful scope for his bishops again. Castles kingside, rook to d1, bishop b6, and rook to e1. Now, the computer will tell you that this game is about equal and white might have a slight advantage, but this is with perfect play from black, and white still has what I would consider a preferable game. If I was in a tournament game, I would much rather have the white pieces here. It's very difficult to find a plan for the black pieces to get out of this bind that they're in without giving up any material. So I'm going to leave this right here, and you can play some practice games in this line. But again, so what I wanted to show you in this video is some very in-depth analysis on this position here once my computer loads it. After e takes d4, instead of castling kingside, I actually prefer queen b3 right away, forcing the queen to come up to e7 or f6 instead of allowing the knight to come to e7 and then the pawn push to d5 later. So I hope you enjoyed this video. That is some analysis that I spent many hours on, and I hope you find it useful in your games. And we're going to continue to show some different variations in the Evans Gambit, like the declined bishop b6 move. There's some variations where black plays d6 and queen d7. We're going to go over those. But this is the main line here, bishop a5, and now I think you've got what you need to beat anybody in this position. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you don't mind, follow me on Twitch. I'm going to be doing some live streaming soon. I've got my name, Salesman Frank, there. That if you go on Twitch and search for that, you can follow me on there. I will be taking requests for openings that you want me to play. I'll play against you. We could do some unrated games. We could do some analysis, or you can watch me play master level blitz games in the openings that you prefer. So whatever you'd like to learn or see, you can do that on Twitch on a live stream. So thanks again, and have a great day.